Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And, well, here we are. This massive winter storm went through. We've been snowed in. Did everything I had to do, cleared the driveway out, but roads are so bad you don't want to go anywhere. And I look forward to this time of year because, well, what else do you have to do but game? And that's exactly what I've been doing. And so I have a multitude of different game systems campaigns. I take really good notes, put them down, keep the characters all together. I have my own little filing system that I use. I really like using loose leaves like this to pencil all my stuff in. I'm old-fashioned. I know they have plenty of apps out there and programs for you to type stuff and keep it on your device where you can bring it up and you can edit and you can do all that. Yeah, I know. It's out there. My only problem is with that is when I sit down to do my tabletop gaming, I don't want any screens. I just want to be disconnected from the electronic world. I want to immerse myself into what's on the tabletop in front of me, and I want to game for a while. And well, so a lot of my games, I said this in my previous videos, I have been very selective over what I bring into my library now. You know, if they don't really have a good solo variant to them, or they're not really good played solo, I tend to shy away from them, and I tend to shy away from really rules-heavy, clunky games because of the fact that when you're spending more time actually chasing down rules, looking up for get clarification on rules, skills, everything else that goes into it, it's less time playing. It takes away from everything. It makes it feel more so like you're just doing data entry rather than playing a game. And well, I have to admit, lately I have found two different publishers out there that have made games that I have really enjoyed. And, you know, long before the whole entire OGL debacle was out there and everybody was boycotting D&D, I've had different systems and loved different systems out there to play. And I've found different games. Now, it could be argued that they're fantasy. Fantasy is my favorite genre when it comes to gaming, and I think it always will be, to be honest with you. I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. So, with all these games, and I decided which one do I want to get back into? Which one do I really want to set up on the table and dive right into? And the one I went with, and I want to talk about this a little bit, in the campaign module that you could pick up for it, which is just, it's excellent. I mean, every time I play this game, I just fall in love with it more and more every time. And, oh man, that game is MorkBorg. So, if you have never, it's hard to believe if you're into the gaming hobby that you have not heard of MorkBorg, seen a video on MorkBorg, read a review on MorkBorg, or played MorkBorg, because it is so big, and there's a reason for that. It's a really good reason, and I'm going to get into those in this video. Before I do, I just wanted to, let you guys know something. The last video, I looked over it, the lighting was horrible, the audio was horrible. I mean, there was just a lot of bad things going on. And hey, sometimes people have that. They have, not everything can work out the way you want it every time you want it to. So I decided it was time to update the lighting a little bit. Got some more lighting in this area. And as you can see, the area is just lit up better. And I updated the audio too. So I don't really know what the difference is. The compatibility issue with this camera I'm using, my old computer, I had no problem with the audio on the camera. This one, for whatever reason, my newer computer, some reason you get this weird tick 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 type of noise from the audio, so it must just be the, I don't know, something funky that it doesn't like this new computer, or something's not compatible. But either way, the picture's great, it's just the audio was suffering. So I've squared all those away. I've taken care of those. I have heard your comments, and trust me, I didn't take any offense to it, because I agreed the last video, the audio and even the video was just horrible. It was just absolutely horrible, and so I have addressed those problems. But with that out of the way, let's jump on into MorkBorg and what I am currently using, and why I think this is such a good game for a solitaire player. It really, really is. So, to look at MorkBorg, you know, let's get the obvious out of the way first. Its bark is worse than its bite. To look at this, it looks extremely dark. The art in it seems foreboding, seems almost, if you will, on the fringes of necromancy, almost like if this was taken out of Anthony LaVey's personal diary or something like that. But that's the thing about the game. You have to understand the theme of this game was thought of and written around some of the great old school heavy metal bands from the 90s, and even the I'm going to say spanning into the early 2000s and all the way back to the 80s. I'm going to bring up a few names that I, just looking at the art, where I think they were inspired from. First and foremost, I would say Slayer, Iron Maiden, Halloween. That's going back into the 80s. That's a good old one. Metallica, Pantera. You know, just some of them iconic heavy metal bands, and the sound that they had, the artwork that they portrayed for at that time, and the genre that they were. And that's the overall theme of this game. It even says in there, you know, it suggests that if you're going to sit down and play this game and use the theme game settings that they give you, that they highly recommend you crank up some of them old heavy metal playlists and gather at the table. And yeah, so the overall vibe, that's what it is. You shouldn't let that scare you off from it, because here's the thing about MorkBorg. MorkBorg is one of those games, the rules are so simple, so light, that yet they're almost elusive. But the fact that the rule sets are like that makes the game more rich, because it leaves so much open for interpretation for you as the player. And as a solitaire player, it doesn't even stop there. The core rule book gives you enough randomized tables in here, and a adventure at the back of the book for you to start with, to be able to give you a really good taste of the game. Now, the thing I found interesting was when I picked up the Game Master screen. The Game Master screen did come with 2 extra panels in it that even gave you more randomized tables and things you could do with it, which was really great. The Game Master screen is just indispensable to this game. If you play it solitaire, I highly recommend you get it. Set it up in the background where you play. All the information you're going to need is going to be right there for you. So you're spending more time throwing dice, moving minis, and just progressing through your adventure that way than a lot of other games out there that are rules heavy, that takes a lot more work and journaling, paper keeping, however, you know, you keep track of your notes, whether it's on a device or it's on a, you know, you're like me, you're old school, you want a good old-fashioned mechanical pencil and some paper to write on, because that's just the way I am. It does not matter. The thing about MorkBorg that is excellent is the fact that it is such a simplistic game, and to the way that it is set up, you are only really limited to your imagination on this one. As a matter of fact, the mechanics of the game can be used, and it even says in there that you can take any fantasy setting you're thinking about and you can really tweak this to work perfectly for you. That's what I love about it, and I'm going to get into a little bit more of what I have here in front of me and what I've been doing with it. So in my scenario, I decided, because I had played the first game session I did when I rolled up my characters for this. Now, mind you, this was, I'm going to say, my third go-around with MorkBorg. The very first one, I had the main core rule book. I rolled up the characters. I went off of what they had in here, and it was decent. It was okay. The second one, I went through. I got the rules, understood them a lot more, and how the game system is structured. And, you know, like any RPG game, you got to get through a few sessions. You got to fumble through a few things before you actually get the full gist of the game and things get running real smoothly. That's, like I said, any game system you play, you know, the toughest session you're going to play is the very first one. That's getting everything off the ground and going. And then after that, it becomes very, very enjoyable and simple after that, because for the most part, you got all the bugs worked out. This game is not like that. The way it is set up, the sandboxiness of it, the items and tables that they do give you, you're not left out in limbo totally to yourself, but you got enough resources to draw off of to be able to add into your game, but you're not limited to just those and what you can do with it. It's great. It's just a wonderful game. And the first scenario I played through in this book was called the Goblin Grinder, which is this one right here. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with this. I was able to wipe out two of the main NPCs, the bad guys in this, which was the Bastard and Nagelkrat. I was able to wipe the two of them out. The last one, the way the dice roll, did not work out, and that was Quard, the grave-digging mercenary. So, but, you know, maybe I'll play that scenario through again with some different characters and see, or maybe not. We'll just see how long I can go on these characters I have now that I love. And so far, this is the second consistent gaming session in this campaign I've been able to go through without losing a character. So these are the longest standing characters I have had for this game session, which goes back to the overall arcing, I'm going to say, theme of this game system, which you just don't see in a lot of other RPGs. It definitely does add a unique flavor to this game, and adds a interesting twist to everything, and that is the calendar of Necrubal, right here. Now, over here, laid out uniquely on this page, it gives you these list of psalms on here, and what it is, depending on how long you want to run your campaign. So you can break it up into years of pain, which is going to be rolling a percentile D100, a bleak half year, which will be rolled on a D20, a fallen anguish, which is 1D10, a cruel month, which will be a D6, or the end is nigh, which is a D2. So if you want to run a real grind fest, maybe a one-off, you just sat down, rolled up some characters, and you want to just see, well, how quickly these characters are going to survive in an extremely brutal environment, then the end is nigh would definitely be for you. It's very simple. On any one of them dice, if you roll a 1, in the calendar of Necrubal, something bad is going to befall either your characters or the entire world. Something extremely biblical, profound, that's going to affect every aspect of the game environment. And you roll a 1, you're going to roll 2d6, and it's going to give you a randomized event. So let's say we got 2d6 here. Let's just roll and see what we get. So my first one is a 5, so I'd go to Psalm 5. My second d6 is a 2, so it would be Psalm 5, number 2 in the psalm. And this is, the tree shall wither, shrivel, and die. Okay, so they're very vague and open-ended, and they're like that for a reason, because it allows you to put that in and that influence in however you would like to do that. And it can be used, depending on how you look at it, either to or against your advantage. What example I'm going to use here, let's say your characters in this particular session you are playing are going through a forest. Now, on one part, the fact that everything withers and dies is good, because now you're not going to have as much cover, and you're going to be able to see a lot of the horrible horrors that await for you in there. But on the other hand, there is no cover left, so you have nothing to hide behind to be able to sneak up on these things either. So it's a double-edged sword. And anyways, this is interesting. This theme that overarches the whole entire game system is quite unique, and it really does set a tone of foreboding, if you will, for it, which it's so unique to this game, and it really does make it stand out against a lot of other RPGs out there. But the simplicity, I keep getting back to the simplicity, just like Swords and Wizardry, why I like that one. Castles and Crusades, to name another one. MorkBorg, they're simple. That's what they all have in common. They're very simple, cohesive, well-written games that have more focused on the game running smoothly with less interruptions, rather than other game systems out there. One I'll name, D&D, right? I'm going to use the example of their spell list. They have tremendous, endless amounts of spells for any magic class to use, but a lot of times you're overwhelmed with so much, unless you're going to have a massive thick character sheet, or perhaps you're using a digital device, which is a no-no for me. I don't like screens on my gaming table when I'm gaming. I just don't. When I go to game, I want all screens off, the exception of music playing in the background. I don't want any level of technology involved whatsoever. I want this to be grounded here. I want to be rolling physical dice, using real paper with a real mechanical pencil to keep notes, and be able to take that breath of fresh air and get away from the craziness and the hustle bustle of life, and have everything slow down to this one moment, what's in front of me on the tabletop. And MorkBorg really captures that. It has that old school feel to it, but it's not old school. It's different. It has a very well balanced amount of randomized tables in there, but not so over the top to where it's so saturated that it just feels, it makes the game feel cheap and just too randomy, to where you are left with a large varying degree of interpretation you can put into this to make anything, any concept that you could possibly come up with work. This is what makes this game so great. I think it's why it makes this game so popular, why so many people have engaged with it. And me, myself, I find myself coming back to it more and more and playing it. What it kind of reminds me of was, I'm trying to remember, Labyrinth Lord. When Labyrinth Lord came out, and it was like this, it was still, for AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but it was a breath of fresh air. The rules were tweaked a little bit. It was given a fresh coat of paint on it, and I played the hell out of that when I had that. The same thing with Castles and Crusades when I got my original slipcover set. Same thing with Swords and Wizardry. But what do they all have in common? They're all rules light, very dynamic, fluid, well-written games, which is the reason why it's like that. And MorkBorg is no different. But if you decide to get into MorkBorg, don't sell yourself short on it. There's a couple of things I would highly suggest that you pick up to really, really get the most out of the game. Besides the main core rulebook, I would really suggest picking up the Game Master screen. The Game Master screen has everything that you need right in front of you. You could put it in the background. There's no need going back to the book unless you need specific things, like after the encounter, you go through the corpse plundering table, or you enter a city and you want a city event to be able to go on to. Or if you haven't designed your own traps, they give you some ideas for traps to put into your games. Or if you want to start out in the tavern, they give you a list of drinks that you can even come up with to be able to flesh out that reaction between the NPCs and just bring that game to life. But they don't overdo it. They do not oversaturate, which is what I love. Now, the campaign setting I'm currently using is called the Fearatory. The Fearatory it's excellent. And like I said, the Goblin Grinder was fun. I had a lot of fun with that. But I decided to go back to the first one I played through. I guess I should back up. I thumbed through it. I seen the Goblin Grinder, and I said I want to give this a try and see how this one runs. So I went through that. I loved it, and I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the book, and I'm going to start at the very first adventure scenario, and I'm going to move on from there. You quickly realize you get a lot of resources in this, and the fact is they give you the overall view of the area. Now, if you look over here and you look at the map, it doesn't look that impressive at first, but in fact, there's a lot to see, there's a lot to do, and they give you a lot of information for your characters to move about this world. All the way answering questions like, what is the road you're traveling? If you decide to use a road, what does it look like? Events that could possibly happen on the road, events that could happen if you set camp at night, all the way down to foraging, how the weather changes. I mean, everything was just well thought out and put in here. And the thing that I love about it is, compared to the way I like to solo RPG and I like to play my RPGs, it feels like it's so seamless that it's one of the very few games that I can sit down and play, and I don't need a whole lot of preparation to do it. I can just sit down and I have everything here, and it moves very, very quickly through. And, well, so I decided on this, I was going to start my characters out on the shores of the Endless Sea in a village here. So my characters start out here on the shore, and they're going to have to move inwards in here to be able to reach the destination point, which will be this place right here. Now, looking at the map, it's going to take me D12 plus 12 days. Considering, well, the first day I had a lot packed already into it. Rolling onto random tables, the weather got worse. Once the weather got worse, the wind was whipping, and they were on this road in the forest. The trees are whipping back and forth, that they have to find shelter to get out of the storm. So at that point, they notice off the trail that they're on, over as the trees are moving and parting, they can see what looks like a cave entrance over there, which would offer excellent shelter for them to get out of the storm with. So they move over that way, only to find that it turns into rocky rolling hills, and the further they get into it, really, this is a goblin encampment. And they've been fighting their way up the trail. I have already cleared out the main goblin camp, and my characters are going to be heading to the last part, which is the last leg of the trail, which is going to take him to the final boss of this goblin encounter, which is then going to pick up into the cave system. Now, what is in the cave system? I don't know yet. I have not gotten that far, and I have not rolled on any of the tables to be able to see what's going to take place in there. Because, actually, that would be a different gaming scenario set up all unto itself versus the one I am currently playing. But, not losing track of, I still have many days ahead of me. As a matter of fact, it's about 16 days ahead of me before I reach my main destination point, which is right here. And they're into late afternoon of the first day. That's what I'm talking about with this game. It's excellent. I have to say, I am very, very just blown away every time I play this game, how streamlined and how good it is. Now, people may say, you're just saying that. No, actually, I'm not. I'm not just saying that to say that. I mean it. I mean, I'm loving it. And if you have not checked out MorkBorg, you're kind of shorting yourself. You're shortchanging yourself as to what is to offer. Because if you can look beyond the theme of the game system of this heavy metal era artwork that it has on there, and you can look at the true mechanic of the game system and the way that it operates, I think you'll see the wonderful aspect that I see from it. For the fact that everything has its baseline number, which is 12. 12 is just normal, whether it be defense, whether you are attacking, whether you're doing a saving throw, whether you're doing a skill, if your characters decide to camp for the night and they're looking for enough dry firewood and undergrowth to be able to get a decent campfire going, your difficulty rating to complete that could be a 12. Now, of course, there's varying degrees on that scale, 6 being the most mundane and simple task that you could think of for your characters to do, all the way up to the most difficult task, and that difficulty rating would come in at an 18. Now, of course, with this, to make the game more simple, you don't have to worry about a long list of skills and feats and all of these descriptions for these spells and all these different things, because it's far more simple than that. It's left up to your interpretation to fill in them blanks and make it what you want to make out of that. The weapons, all the way down to the brief description of the weapon, really more focused on the damage die aspect of it, not so much of the weapon, which leaves a lot of interpretation for you to be able to utilize, especially when you're finding treasure, or if the focal point of your particular game session, let's say you sandbox one, is around a weapon and the different maybe magical aspects that that weapon could have to offer. Talking about magic is so simple in this game and how they break it up. There are a total of 20 different powers you could look at that, and those are sacred powers, which would be good spells, helpful spells, and then unclean powers, which is going to be more of your negative, evil, I wouldn't want to say evil, but more of an offensive combat type of spell that you would typically use. But the cool thing is, it describes everything in a scroll as a brief example of what it can do. But it doesn't say anywhere you are limited to just these 20. It leaves it up to your interpretation to do what you want with it and how to really formulate and make it the way you want it to cater towards your particular gaming tastes and styles. That is a damn good game. That is a really good game. If you get a game that goes too far down the rabbit hole of here's the weapon description and here's, the cliff notes of what you need to know about it. But if you want to learn more about this, it would be in this supplement book where you could read the whole thing on it. You're not going to find that in MorkBorg. As a matter of fact, MorkBorg, what I noticed, every single one of these campaign modules, whether it's the Feartory or the Heretic, like here, are just jam-packed full of adventures. Pre-generated and made for you to use, classic hex crawl style. And yeah, I mean, this really scratches the itch of old school. If you want to play old school type of RPGs, it really is. It's a modern game with an old school heavy metal feel to it, and just so much variability and so streamlined that it's amazing me. And this is the itch that needed to be scratched with me for a very long time, and MorkBorg has finally done it. The cool thing I seen, and this scenario I'm playing with this Goblin encampment was just basically off their random matrix that brought this together, and I sat down and fleshed it out a little bit more, made the boss an NPC, so now the boss of this encounter isn't just your run-of-the-mill goblin creature that they give you in their back of their book for the encounters. Now it's taken on a larger life. It's taken on this larger complex of this population of these horrible creatures, which gave me an idea, because there is so much open-endedness to this game, and it gives you so much potential to be able to make it exactly what you want, which is perfect for solitaire play. And that is Undead. And I sat there and I said, you know what? I could do a lot with this, considering I'm working on some new terrain like this graveyard scene that I'm getting ready to paint up, which is going to really help me focus on this. But I wanted to do one that I said, okay, I have a lot of graveyard miniature terrain pieces that can be utilized. It'd be really cool to do something with Undead. And that's when I went back to my library for this game system, and I decided to break out some other resources that I knew I could pull from those influences, put into this game, and they would be seamlessly molded, especially for anything I want to really do with this. Now, those two books that I'm going to get into, this one, old school, one of my favorite books. I love the artwork. I love everything about it. I love the fact that when you read this and you go through it, the introduction in the way that it is set up, the tales, let me get to the Tales from Beyond the Grave. And as you read it, the Tales from Beyond the Grave, the introduction is supposed to be a narration from Elminster himself. That was Elminster, if you're not familiar with that, was a very huge character, the commercially character from AD&D, and of course Elminster had this pipe to where every time he puffed off that pipe, he'd get 3 more wishes indefinitely, which made him as powerful. No, wait a minute. I'm thinking of St. Cuthbert. That's not St. Cuthbert. Elminster is completely different. Elminster was a magic user. Sorry, I got my characters mixed up there a little bit. But it's very cool how when you read the introduction of this book and some of the influences I could pull through this to do with MorkBorg and make a really cool scenario, was the fact that he's sitting in the darkness talking to the dead. And it really sets the tone of this book, and it really helps you. It gives you a lot of examples, a lot of really cool adventure ideas to add in, and explains really to you some of the better ways to use them encounters to your benefit. Now, of course, this is going at it because the time that this was written, this would have been for the DM. This would have been, hey, here's some more unique ways you can challenge your players, the encounters you can use, and here are some pre-loaded map layouts with everything you need to know in the rooms to be able to run your characters through. But for me, as a solitaire player, this is perfect. This is a wealth of information, and I could borrow some of this out of here, some of the information out of here, to be able to detail and make more encounters. Because the one thing about MorkBorg, I can admit, if there is one thing that I see that is limiting to it, that is the fact that you have this limited amount of encounters in the back of the book. It gives you some very unique ones to the MorkBorg world that you can use. Let me get to that. This guy right here, the Alan, the wicked knife wielder. Yeah, that's just something of nightmares right here. That is just freaking bizarre. But anyways, it gives you some fantasy encounters, but you're limited. But it's cool. It's not cool that they give you a limited amount, but what is really cool is that the way the system works, you have this basic numerical system of 12 for any difficulty rating, and when you add the levels of armor, whether the encounters have natural armor or whether they are actually using real armor, will increase their defense rating and either make it more or less challenging for your characters to hit, and of course the hit points. And then you're unlimited to some of the special traits that you can put in there for them encounters. It's just that simple. It's no wonder so many people connect with this game the way that they do. But the other book that I decided to pull out and use for this as another source material creating an undead scenario was, of course, this one right here, Liberis Mortis. This is made for the 3rd edition, the Book of the Undead. This has a lot of great material in it. This is a really good book. This, I have to admit, I miss the 3rd edition so much. I really do. I really do. But, you know, I guess the good thing is I got a whole shelf of this stuff back there. And it's funny, you know, I hear this a lot, and I'm hearing it more and more so on the YouTube chatter, and just the videos where people are constantly complaining about, you know, this is going downhill, this, that, and then I had to stop because I got so wrapped up into that, just the toxic mind thought of hating this, hating that, this is changing, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, that I was so blinded by that I didn't realize the fact, like, hey, stupid, you have all these great source material books behind you from these earlier editions that you like. Who cares what they come out with now? Who cares what they publish beyond that? Because I have some of the best stuff that they have ever produced right here that I can use for my games. That's what I got to focus on. And that's what I plan on focusing on to use with MorkBorg to make a really cool undead encounter. Now, this is, of course, going to be a future game scenario. I'm currently in the middle of this goblin encampment, so I'm going to have to finish this one first, and if the characters survive it and whatever is in the cave, that's going to be for another day, another day's travel before they run into this scenario and what it has to offer. But, like I said, it gives me the time to be able to work on some of my newer terrain pieces and kind of detail those, see how I can add those into my game scenario. Now, of course, it goes without saying, the graveyard is going to, of course, be able to be added, but I have so many other mini pieces I can add into this. And when I get into that, I'm going to, if you know, things work out and I get the spare time to be able to do it, I'll do a video on it and I'll show you what I did, how I compiled it, what I used, and how I'm going to set up the map and run my characters through it. But I will tell you what, I just wanted to get this one out there. I wanted to make a video. I wanted to make, I felt so bad about that last video, how it turned out, that I just felt as if I really owed it to you guys out there to give you a better content video and maybe just talk about a little bit of you know, using some of these game systems, these more simply wrote, simple to play, streamlined, quick game systems, and some of the other aspects that you could pull on out of your libraries, and why games like this, to be honest with you, are so replayable. They're so fun. They're one of them games that if you're a solitaire player, you go back to a lot. Now, I am unique when it comes to gaming, because I guess since I started this channel, my intent has been to kind of get the word out there about, hey, yeah, you can solitaire gaming. This is how you do it. This is what I do. This is what I would recommend. You can do this. You can do that. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to coerce you into buying a product or a particular brand, which is unique. And that's the one thing I can admit about my channel, Artichoke Dip. That's always going to remain the way it is. I remain true to what I am, and that's a gamer. I'm a gamer. I'm not a salesperson. Don't want to push any one particular product on you. I don't know. Let me see. I guess I foresee that as a poison, if you will. It truly is. It's a poison. Some people may think I'm crazy by saying this. Some people may think that it's nuts for me to think this way. But there's this old saying, you should never mix what you enjoy, which makes you happy, with business. Well, let's face it. Business is cruel. It's ruthless. It knows no bounds, mercy, or anything else. It only is a monster of creation of profits, and basically it's a horrible creature unto itself that it never has its fulfillment. It is never filled, and it is never appeased, no matter how much you throw at it. It always wants more. I like gaming too much to want to be able to mingle that. Wise words of Kevin Sambita when I talked to him, and I remember him telling me after we had done the interview, and he had said, do you like gaming? I said, sure, look forward to it every weekend. It's, you know, what I look forward to do after I put in a week's worth of work. I want some downtime. I want some R&R. You know, this is what I want to do. He says, well, what if you were to do that every single day? What if that's what, you know, you have stride towards? He says, let me tell you something. Once you cross that threshold and you go into that, and everything becomes work for you, you then lose your passion for it, and the last thing you want to do on your off time is game. So, one thing I can admit about this channel, it's always going to be about gaming. Just good old-fashioned solitaire gaming. And without trying to sell you anything. I don't believe in making you sell anything. Buy what you want, play what you want. Hell, you know, it behooves me to be able to tell you one way or another. What works for your table may not work at mine. Or work at that person over there, or that person over there, or that person over there. Which is why they call it solitaire gaming, which makes it so special, because it's all about you. Not me. It's all about you. Well, my friends, I think I've talked your ear off quite enough about MorkBorg. What I like about MorkBorg, streamlined, it's excellent, simple game. The more I play it, the more I love it. And some of the directions I'm going to take it into. The next video I think I'm going to get into, it's going to be a little bit more to do with terrain, some more painting ideas, show you how I do some more technique, highlighting, and yeah, I'm not ready for that yet. Still got a whole bunch, you can't see it on camera right now, but I got a whole bunch of miniature pieces piled up behind here, guys like this, bunch of handfuls of goblins that I have everywhere. and things like that. And I got that game scenario I gotta finish up first to get that done and out of the way before I can even think about excuse me, tearing this all down and then throwing my painting mat down to break that all out in the paints and to get back to that. So we'll save that. We'll look forward to that for maybe next weekend. We'll get into that. But with that being said, those are my thoughts, not yours, my friends. Tripping over my words. Let's try that again. With that being said, those are my thoughts and not yours, my friends. And this is Artichoke Dip, signing off.